By the crimson moons of Vorthak, I never thought I would live to tell this tale. My name is Crix-9, former intelligence officer of the Galactic Dominion, and what I am about to share with you will shake your understanding of warfare, pride, and the terrifying ingenuity of those bipedal nightmares from the third rock orbiting that yellow star. You see, for 12,000 rotations, Supreme War Commander Thagon-Rex had never, and I mean never, lost a single engagement.
Odd one!
The crimson-scaled titan stood 3 meters tall, possessed 4 arms that could crush steel, and commanded a mind that calculated battle strategies faster than our quantum computers. His reputation preceded him across 17 star systems. Entire species would surrender the moment his dreadnought appeared in their orbital space. Thagon-Rex collected victories like some beings collect exotic fungi. The Siege of Malthern VII, 3 standard hours. The Battle of the Crystal Nebula, 47 minutes. The complete subjugation of the Zephyrian Collective, an afternoon's work really. He had this insufferable habit of keeping a holographic tally of his conquests floating above his command throne, the numbers growing larger with each passing cycle. But then, oh then, came the assignment that would change everything. The Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, decided that this backwater planet called Earth needed to be brought into the fold. Just another primitive world with barely functional spacecraft, they said. The inhabitants had only recently figured out nuclear fusion. For crying out loud, how difficult could it be? I remember Thagon-Rex laughing, a sound like grinding metal that made everyone within earshot wince. "Send the humans an ultimatum," he commanded, his voice booming across the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable. "Standard terms: surrender within 1 solar day or face complete annihilation." The message was transmitted. We waited, and waited, and then instead of the expected groveling response or panicked acceptance, we received something that none of us had anticipated. The single transmission. Audio only. But someone called Lieutenant Colonel Maya Santos. "Thanks for the offer," came this ridiculously casual female voice. "But we are going to have to pass. Sol, so nice ship. Would be a shame if something happened to it." Thagon-Rex stared at the communication console for a full 30 seconds, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. I had served under him for 8 rotations, and I had never seen him look confused before. Not once. "Did she just threaten us?" he asked, his voice carrying a note of bewilderment that was almost comical. "Sir," I replied, checking my translation matrix 3 times, "I believe she did indeed threaten us. And sir, she seemed to be enjoying it." The War Commander's laugh this time was different, less confident, more forced. "Very well. Begin orbital bombardment, target their major population centers, make an example of them." This is where things started getting interesting in that special way that makes you question your life choices. Our first bombardment squadron, 12 heavy destroyers, moved into attack formation above what the humans called North America. Standard procedure: soften the target, demonstrate overwhelming force, watch them crumble. Except they did not crumble. Instead, something impossible happened. But our lead destroyer, the Crushing Fist, simply stopped transmitting. One moment it was there, launching plasma charges at the surface, and the next moment, nothing. No distress signal, no explosion, just silence. "Crix-9, Thagon-Rex called out, his voice tight. "Where is the Crushing Fist?" I frantically worked my console, running every scan we had. "Sir, I am detecting debris, but the energy signature is all wrong. It looks like the ship was taken apart from the inside out. The hull breach patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" "Sir, they appear to have been made by conventional explosives, primitive ones." Now, you have to understand something about galactic warfare. Space combat happens at distances measured in thousands of kilometers. Ship-to-ship boarding actions are virtually unheard of, because they are considered suicidal. The energy barriers, the automated defenses, the fact that you would need to match velocity with a vessel moving at significant percentages of light speed, it was theoretically impossible. Apparently no one told the humans this. The second destroyer went dark, 6 minutes later. Then the third. By the time we realized what was happening, half our attack squadron had been reduced to floating scrap metal, and we still had not seen a single human spacecraft. "How are they doing this?" Thagon-Rex roared, his composure finally cracking. "Where are their ships?" That is when our proximity alarm started screaming. "Sir," Communications Officer Vex-12 called out, his voice climbing 3 octaves. "Multiple contacts, approaching fast. They are inside our defensive perimeter." On the main display we saw them. Dozens of small craft so tiny they barely registered on our scanners, weaving between our capital ships like angry insects. They were not flying in formation. They were not following any tactical doctrine we recognized. They were just everywhere, moving in patterns that defied logic. And they were fast. By the ancients, they were fast. Deploy fighter squadrons, Thagon-Rex commanded. SWAT these gnats. Our Talon-class fighters launched, each one a masterpiece of engineering worth more than some planet's annual GDP, piloted by the finest warriors the Dominion had to offer, equipped with weapons that could vaporize asteroids. The human craft shot them down like they were standing still. It was not even close. Our pilots, trained for decades in the art of space combat, were being outflown by beings who had only left their atmosphere a few generations ago. The human ships moved like they were extensions of their pilots' bodies, pulling maneuvers that should have liquefied any organic being inside. "Sir," I called out, my voice barely steady, "I am reading acceleration forces of over 20 Gs on those human craft. Their pilots should be unconscious, or dead." Thagon-Rex leaned forward in his command throne. "Then why are they not?" Before I could answer, one of the human fighters broke away from the main engagement and headed straight for us. Straight for the Inevitable, the most heavily defended ship in the Dominion fleet. Our point defense systems opened fire, filling space with enough energy to sterilize a moon. The tiny craft dodged everything. Not just dodged, mind you, it danced. It performed spirals and loops and maneuvers that our targeting computers could not predict because they violated every principle of physics we understood. And then it disappeared. "Where did it go?" Thagon-Rex demanded. "I do not know, sir. It just vanished from our sensors." That is when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later. Bathing the bridge in red light, damage reports flooded in from across the ship. Hull breaches on 17 decks, primary weapons offline, life support systems failing in multiple sections. "How?" Thagon-Rex whispered. "How did one tiny ship do this?" The answer came in the form of a transmission from inside our own vessel. Inside, as in someone was broadcasting from within, the Inevitable itself. "Greetings," came that same insufferably cheerful voice. "Lieutenant Colonel Maya Santos. Hope you do not mind, but I took the liberty of redecorating. You really should upgrade your internal security. Also, your artificial gravity is set way too high. Makes everything more difficult than it needs to be." Thagon-Rex stood up so fast, his throne cracked. "That is impossible. No one can breach the Inevitable. Our shields, our armor, our defensive systems." "Yeah, about that," Santos interrupted. "You guys really need to work on your assumptions. See, while you were busy shooting at empty space, I kind of snuck in through your waste disposal port. Turns out, when you scale up a ship to this size, you create some pretty interesting weak spots. Who would have thought?" I watched Thagon-Rex's face cycle through several colors I had never seen before. Purple, then green, then a shade of orange that was frankly disturbing. "Surrender now," he commanded, "and I will grant you a quick death." The human laughed.
Yeah, actually laughed.
"Oh, that is adorable. No, here is what is going to happen. I am currently standing in your primary reactor control room, and I have placed some delightfully unstable explosives in very specific locations. Nothing too fancy, just good old-fashioned chemistry. But here is the thing about antimatter containment fields. They are surprisingly sensitive to sudden changes in local magnetic flux." My blood froze. If she disrupted the containment field, the explosion would not just destroy the Inevitable, it would take out half the fleet. "You are bluffing," Thagon-Rex snarled. "Am I? Tell you what, why do not you ask your engineering chief how many backup generators I have disabled in the last 10 minutes? Or, maybe check how many of your crew are currently locked in their own quarters because their door controls mysteriously malfunctioned." I ran the checks. She was not bluffing. Somehow this one human had infiltrated our ship, bypassed security systems that had taken centuries to perfect, and was now holding the entire Dominion fleet hostage. "What do you want?" Thagon-Rex asked through gritted teeth. "Simple. You leave. Pack up your fancy ships. Go home and tell whoever sent you that Earth is not available for conquest. Oh, and leave behind one of your communication arrays. We might want to chat later. And if I refuse, then I introduce your antimatter to some regular matter in a very dramatic fashion, and you get to find out what it feels like to become a very brief, very bright star." Thagon-Rex looked around the bridge at his officers, at me, at the screens showing our crippled fleet. I could see the moment his legendary confidence finally cracked completely. "You cannot expect me to surrender to one primitive being," he said. But his voice had lost its commanding tone. "Primitive?" Santos sounded genuinely amused. "Oh honey, you have no idea. See, the thing about humans is that we have been killing each other with style and creativity for thousands of years. We have had wars that lasted decades, battles that raged across continents, and we have perfected the art of making things explode in ways that would make your engineers weep. You brought superior technology to a fight against superior malice. That was your first mistake. And our second? You assumed that just because we had not left our solar system yet, we were not dangerous. Let me tell you something about my species, War Commander. We are the descendants of beings who looked at the apex predators of our world and decided they would make nice rugs. We took wolves, the perfect killing machines, and turned them into pets that wear sweaters. We invented nuclear weapons, and then had the restraint not to use them to wipe ourselves out. We are simultaneously the most destructive and most creative force this galaxy has ever produced." She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that made everyone on the bridge shiver. "And you just tried to threaten our children." Thagon-Rex was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice I had never heard him use before, he asked, "What are your terms?" "Like I said, you leave now, all of you, and you do not come back, ever. Because if you do, next time I will not be so generous. Next time I will not come alone. And trust me, you do not want to meet my colleagues. I am what humans call the diplomatic option." I felt my exoskeleton try to molt from pure terror. If this Santos was the diplomatic option, what did their military specialist look like? "Very well," Thagon-Rex said, his voice hollow. "Fleet-wide retreat, immediate withdrawal from this system." As our ships began to turn away from Earth, I could not help but ask the question that was burning in all of our minds. "Santos, how did you know exactly where to strike? How did you bypass our defenses so easily?" Her answer still haunts me. "Oh, that is easy. Your species builds things to be efficient and logical. Ours builds things to survive other humans. Your technology is superior, but your thinking is predictable. We have been fighting asymmetrical warfare since we figured out that rocks make good weapons. You never had a chance. The transmission ended, and we limped away from Earth with our pride shattered, and our assumptions in ruins." Thagon-Rex never spoke of that day again, and within a rotation he had retired from military service to become a philosopher, of all things. But that was not the end of the story. Oh no, that was just the beginning. Because 6 months later, the humans sent their own message to the Galactic Council. Not a threat, not a demand, just a simple statement. "Thank you for the introduction to galactic civilization. We look forward to participating. By the way, we have some questions about your trade regulations and a few suggestions for improvement." The suggestions turned out to be a complete overhaul of interstellar law that somehow managed to benefit everyone involved, while also ensuring that Earth held a permanent seat on the Security Council. The suggestions turned out to be a complete overhaul of interstellar law that somehow managed to benefit everyone involved, while also ensuring that Earth held a permanent seat on the Security Council. And Lieutenant Colonel Maya Santos, Ulji became Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community. The woman who had single-handedly defeated the most successful military commander in known history was now attending diplomatic receptions and negotiating trade agreements. I heard she brought cookies to her first meeting. Apparently they were delicious. You would think that after being thoroughly humiliated by a single human, the Galactic Dominion would have learned its lesson. You would be wrong. Spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. 3 standard cycles after our embarrassing retreat from Earth, High Chancellor Vorth Prime decided that our defeat had been a fluke, a lucky shot, an aberration in the natural order of the universe where superior technology and overwhelming numbers should always triumph. The old fool convinced himself that Thagon-Rex had simply grown soft, that the humans had caught us off guard, and that a proper military response would quickly bring these upstart primates to heel. So naturally, he assembled the largest invasion force in Dominion history. I tried to warn him. The burning stars, I tried. I submitted 17 different intelligence reports detailing human tactical innovations, their disturbing tendency to turn everyday objects into weapons, and their frankly unnatural ability to thrive under impossible conditions. I highlighted their recent diplomatic successes, their rapid technological advancement, and the alarming rate at which other species were beginning to trade with them. Vorthai Prime threw my reports in the waste recycler, and called me a coward. Fine. Sometimes the universe has to teach harsh lessons the hard way. The Second Earth Expedition, as it came to be known in the official records, consisted of 457 ships, battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, carrier vessels, support craft, and enough firepower to reduce a small moon to component atoms. Leading this armada was War Marshal Crexdoom, Thagon-Rex's former rival, and a being who had spent the last 3 cycles publicly mocking his predecessor's failure. Watch and learn. Crix 9. Crexdoom told me, as we approached the Sol system. This is how a real military commander handles primitive species. I said nothing. There was no point. Some lessons can only be learned through direct experience, preferably at high velocity and with significant property damage. The humans were waiting for us. Not with their tiny fighter craft this time. Oh no! They had been busy! In the 3 cycles since our last encounter, they had apparently decided that if they were going to be part of galactic civilization, they might as well do it properly. And by properly, I mean in the most aggressively human way possible. Sir, Communications Officer Zeph-7 reported, his voice cracking slightly. We are receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Command. Put it through, Crexdoom commanded, settling into his command throne with obvious satisfaction. The main screen activated, and there she was. Ambassador Maya Santos, looking exactly as insufferably confident as I remembered. She wore what appeared to be a formal diplomatic outfit, complete with medals and insignia that probably meant nothing to us but somehow still managed to look intimidating. Hello again, she said, her smile sharp enough to cut starship hull plating. I was wondering when you would be back. Did you bring more friends this time? That is nice. I love making new friends. Crexdoom leaned forward. I am War Marshal Crexdoom of the Galactic Dominion. You will surrender immediately, or face total annihilation. Santos tilted her head. You know, that is exactly what the last guy said. Did not work out so well for him. But hey, points for consistency. The last commander was weak, Crexdoom snarled. I am not. Sure. They all say that. Tell me, Marshal, did anyone bother to brief you on what happened to your predecessor? Because I am thinking maybe they left out some important details. I watched Crexdoom's confidence waver slightly. Good, maybe he was not completely beyond reason. Thagon-Rex was caught off guard by primitive trickery, he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. I have taken precautions. Santos laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be simultaneously musical and terrifying. Precautions? Oh, that is adorable. What kind of precautions? Enhanced sensor arrays, improved internal security, boarding countermeasures, and backup command protocols. And how are those working out for you so far? That was when I noticed something wrong with my console. The tactical display was showing impossible readings. According to our sensors, there were human ships surrounding our entire fleet, but that could not be right. They were too close, too many, and too well positioned. It would have taken months of precise maneuvering to achieve such positioning without being detected. Sir, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. I am reading multiple contacts, hundreds of them. They appear to be everywhere. Crexdoom whipped around. What do you mean everywhere? Before I could answer, Santos spoke again. Did I forget to mention? We made some improvements since your last visit. Turns out when you give humans access to galactic technology databases, they get creative. Really creative. The tactical display updated, and I felt my heart stop. Our fleet was not surrounded. It was permeated. Human ships, sleek and deadly looking, hung in perfect formation between our vessels, around them, above and below them. They had not been detected because they were not where we expected them to be. They were using some kind of stealth technology that our sensors could not properly interpret. Impossible, Crexdoom whispered. You keep using that word, Santos replied cheerfully. I do not think it means what you think it means. See, humans have this wonderful trait called adaptability. We take what works, we improve what does not, and we throw out everything that gets in our way. Your technology is impressive, but it is also predictable. You build things the same way, think the same way, fight the same way. We learned your patterns, reverse engineered your systems, and then made them better. Better how? Santos gestured off screen, and the display changed to show what appeared to be a human vessel. It was smaller than our dreadnoughts but somehow looked more dangerous. The design was all wrong. incorporating elements from dozens of different species technologies, but arranged in ways that defied conventional engineering wisdom. Meet the Terran Defense Force, she announced proudly. Ships designed by beings who grew up in gravity wells, built to be operated by creatures who treat physics more like suggestions than absolute laws, and armed with weapons that your people probably should not have put in a publicly accessible database. One of our escort destroyers, the Relentless Fury, suddenly lost power, then another, then 6 more, all in rapid succession. No explosions, no weapons fire, just darkness. How? Crexdoom demanded. Crexdoom demanded. Electromagnetic pulse mines, Santos explained casually. Turns out when you make your ships bigger and more powerful, you also make them more dependent on complex electronic systems. Funny how that works. Oh, and before you ask, yes, we did consider the ethical implications of using EMP weapons against crewed vessels. That is why we developed these lovely little boarding pods. As if summoned by her words, small craft began launching from the human ships. Dozens of them, each one heading for a different disabled Dominion vessel. Those pods contain technical specialists. Santos continued. Their job is to make sure your crews are safe and comfortable while we have our little chat. Do not worry. They brought snacks. I watched in fascination and horror as the boarding pods latched onto our disabled ships. Within minutes we were receiving status reports. The human teams were not attacking our crews. They were providing them with emergency life support, medical assistance, and apparently some kind of baked goods. It was the most polite invasion in galactic history. This is madness, Crexdoom muttered. No, Santos corrected. This is human. There is a difference, though. I admit it can be hard to spot sometimes. Now, shall we discuss terms, or would you prefer to find out what happens when we stop being diplomatic? What terms? Same as last time, plus a few additions. You leave, you do not come back, and you acknowledge Earth as a sovereign member of the galactic community with all associated rights and privileges. In exchange, we let you keep your ships and your dignity. Mostly, and if I refuse? Santos looked genuinely surprised. Why would you refuse? Look around you, Marshal. Your fleet is disabled, your crews are eating our cookies and apparently asking for the recipes, and you are completely at our mercy. But here is the thing. We do not want to conquer you. We do not want to rule you. We just want you to leave us alone so we can get back to exploring the galaxy, making friends, and occasionally blowing things up in the name of science. Crexdoom stood up, his massive frame trembling with rage. The Dominion does not negotiate with primitives. Primitives? Santos raised an eyebrow. That is interesting. Tell me, Marshal, how many species has your Dominion conquered in the last 1,000 cycles? 47, he replied proudly. And how many of those species actually fought back effectively? None. They all submitted to our superior. He stopped, finally understanding where she was going with this. Exactly, Santos nodded. You have been bullying species that were not ready for space warfare. You got comfortable beating up children, and then you picked a fight with adults. That was your mistake. She leaned forward, and her expression grew serious. Let me tell you something about humans, Marshal. We do not like bullies. We really do not like bullies. And when we encounter bullies, we tend to get creative about making them stop. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to take your fleet, and you are going to go home. And then you are going to explain to your High Chancellor that the age of easy conquests is over, because the humans are watching now. And if we refuse to change our ways, Santos smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Then you will discover that humans are not just good at defensive warfare, we are also quite talented at offense. And unlike you, we learn from every battle, every mistake, every victory. How long do you think it would take us to reverse engineer your hyperdrive technology, to track down your homeworlds, to show up in your space with our own fleets and our own ultimatums? The bridge fell silent. Everyone could see the implications. If humans could do this to our invasion fleets, what could they do if they decided to become conquerors themselves? But here is the beautiful part, Santos continued, her voice returning to its previous cheerful tone. We do not want to be conquerors. We want to be explorers, traders, diplomats, scientists. We want to learn about the galaxy, meet new species, share knowledge and culture. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. She paused, looking directly at Crexdoom. All you have to do is stop trying to enslave us. The War Marshal looked around his bridge, at his disabled fleet, at the human ships that surrounded him like a steel embrace. I could see the moment his resistance finally broke. "Terms accepted," he said quietly. "Excellent." Santos clapped her hands together. "I will have our technical teams help restore power to your ships. Oh, and Marshal, when you get home, please give my regards to High Chancellor Vorth Prime. Tell him that Ambassador Santos is looking forward to our formal diplomatic meeting next month. I am bringing more cookies." As our fleet limped away from Earth for the second time in 3 cycles, I found myself strangely optimistic about the future. The humans had not just defeated us, they had offered us a better path forward. They had shown us that strength did not have to mean domination, that power could be used to protect rather than conquer. 3 months later, the Galactic Dominion officially renounced its expansionist policies and entered into formal diplomatic relations with Earth. High Chancellor Vorth Prime was replaced by a council that included representatives from former subject species, and the Dominion began the long process of transitioning from Empire to Confederation. Maya Santos became the first human to address the full Galactic Assembly. Her speech about cooperation, mutual respect, and the benefits of peaceful coexistence was later published in over 3,000 languages and became required reading in diplomatic schools across the galaxy. As for Thagon-Rex, he emerged from retirement to become Earth's military advisor, helping to design the defense systems that would protect not just humanity, but any species threatened by would-be conquerors. The old warrior found new purpose in teaching others how to fight for freedom rather than dominance. And me? I requested a transfer to the newly formed Interspecies Cultural Exchange Program, where I spent the rest of my career helping other species understand what we had learned the hard way, that humans were not just another primitive species to be conquered or ignored. They were partners, allies, and friends, as long as you treated them with the respect they deserved. But if you tried to threaten their families, their freedom, or their cookies, well, then you would learn why they called their homeworld a Deathworld, and why the rest of the galaxy now referred to humanity as the species you really did not want to make angry. The last time I spoke with Maya Santos, she was planning a vacation to the crystal beaches of Altera 4 with her family. She mentioned that she had packed light because, and I quote, "The universe is finally peaceful enough that I do not need to bring explosives to a beach trip." Somehow that statement was both reassuring and absolutely terrifying. After all, she was human.